talked to a bunch of people on Clubhouse. We were just talking about Clubhouse, the new drop-in audio app. And I'm in these Bitcoin rooms, which, by the way, you got to come on with me, and we'll go in there together and talk to all these Bitcoin professional. There's a bunch of influence in there, influencers like Jimmy Song and Max Kaiser. They're all in there with us, right?
Yeah.
And a few of these guys were like, you've done so well financially. Like, what motivates you? What gets you up in the morning? And I said to them, for me, there's a goalpost that we have, right? Because we had this anxiety growing up. You and I had we talked about this previously. We kind of share these experiences, right?
Fear of poverty, Jay. I don't care what the bank account says. I'm like,
that's
okay,
right.
Yeah.
Got to keep moving.
My dad got his hours cut back. Let me get up this morning and add to that pile, right?
Yeah. And for me, it was like, I want to take care of my own. Then I want to take care of me and my wife. And then I had the kids. And then we had more kids. And then you got to think about colleges. You got to take care of colleges. And if you have the ability to be able to take care and pay for their houses, and they're going to have grandkids, the goalposts keep moving away because you keep thinking about more people that you can help. Because when you get to a point where you have these opportunities presented, most people don't have it. So I think there's an element of, if you grew up in an area and you had the same opportunities as the people you grew up with, when you get older, you start making different choices. And then you have choices plus luck, which creates different outcomes, in my opinion. But once you have success, it's like this escape velocity, right? And all the opportunities get presented to me, and they don't get presented to other people that I know. So I feel an obligation to do those things to help the people that are closest to me around me. And I don't know if you feel that way, but that's how I've felt.
No question. But also, that is like the greatest feeling in the world. So Stan Druckenmiller has always said that his greatest joy is when he's trying to help somebody else out. So I've got a group of guys that have worked for me, some of which have gone on to build their own businesses. I'm always trying to help them. I've got a group of guys that are in my business that I've made partners at very young ages and downloaded equity to them so that they're like super motivated and they feel like they're going to break out. My portfolio manager grew up in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which is a coal mining town. That's the exact same town my dad grew up in. He moved to Port Washington when he was in his late teens, early 20s. I think he was 19 or 20. He had graduated from the high school in Plains, Pennsylvania. And so these are impoverished areas. So he's doing very, very well, meaning this guy that's my portfolio manager. My point is, I'm not going for the last buck. I'll tell you a story that I wrote in my first book, Goodbye Gordon Gekko, which ultimately got translated into Chinese because it was about Li Ka-shing. And so it's a 30-second story, but it's worth it. Li Ka-shing, the richest person in Asia, now 92. In 1999, he was 70. I was 35. And I was soliciting him to be a partner in my fund. And I was in Hong Kong for a 2-week period of time marketing, 1999. And it was a Sunday morning. I was having no success getting through to him. Finally, one of my former Goldman Sachs colleague called me and said, Mr. Lee, we'll see you Sunday morning. You got to go to his office. This is before Chung Kung Center got built. So it was at the Hutchinson Whampoa office, this small, dank, mid-60s office in Hong Kong. I jumped in a cab. I put my suit on. I went over there. Mr. Lee came out. And this guy's now worth over $100 billion at age 92.
Yeah.
And he's known as Superman in Hong Kong. And people like to say that Warren Buffett is the K.S. Lee of America, that sort of thing. And he's probably one of the most powerful people in the world.
For sure.
He comes into the meeting. He couldn't have been more well-mannered or down to earth. And he sat down, he looks at me, Jay, and he says, so Anthony, tell me about the stock market. Tell me about the stock market. What's your opinion? And I look over at him and I'm like, holy shit, if I'm talking, okay, this is going to be the worst meeting of my life. This is one of the richest people, the most successful, most influential people in Asia. If I'm doing the talking, right?
That's right.
He figures I'm going to start to try to impress him with my 35-year-old ego-based knowledge. I look at him, I say, Mr. Lee, the market could go up, it could go down. I said, I don't know. I could give you my opinion, but I don't know if it's going to be that worth it to you given your success. But let me ask you this, sir. You're 70, and God bless you. May you live a very long life. I am 35. I'm exactly half your age. Can you tell me something that I can take with me for the next half of my life that you've learned in your lifetime? Could you tell me something? And it was supposed to be a
Yep.
10-minute meeting. It turned into an hour meeting, Jay. Okay. And K.S. Lee looked at me and he said, well, I grew up with absolutely no money. I literally was eating like rice and like, the entrails of like, animals like pork and things like that. And I grew up no money. And I started a plastic flower business in mainland China. And then the revolution took place. He's a young man in the revolution, right? And now he's working in 1968, Mao decides he's going to hammer Hong Kong. Hong Kong stayed as a British colony, and it became a commercially capitalized, unbelievably beautiful city. It's still a beautiful city. It's changed a lot. But he said that the property values were getting hammered in Hong Kong. So he had this plastic flower export company. He took every dollar of his life savings and he put it into the rock known as Hong Kong and started buying property there. And of course, it turned out his assumption was correct. Mao did not want to give up the capitalist, mercantilist activity on Hong Kong. He needed it for the communist economy that was a disaster. And Lee went on to make multiple billions of dollars. And he said to me, so when you have an opportunity, seize it, have high conviction. That was lesson number one. Number two, he said to me, leave money on the table for your partners. And that includes your staff, and it includes when you're doing a deal. So if you're in a negotiation, leave a little bit of money on the table for your partner.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, he goes, that will make you very, very wealthy. And you'll always have partners that want to do business with you because, like, okay, that guy's a fair guy. He's going to cut a good deal for me. He said the other thing, excuse me, it will do is it'll make you happy, Anthony. It'll make you happy. Why, Mr. Lee? He said, well, when you ask for the last nickel in a deal, you will get it. You will likely get it if you're persistent. And then you'll go back to your office and say, why didn't I ask for 2 nickels? I needed 2 nickels. And what happens is you start to tier things in your head and you become rapacious where it's never, ever enough.
Yep.
So if you leave money on the table for your partners, you create this positive externality and this positive karma. You're going to live a very, very happy life, and you're going to always be able to do business.